So at the 88th Academy Awards in early 2016, many of us thought Sylvester Stallone was going to win Best Supporting Actor. Why did the trophy instead go to Mark Rylance? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. This is going to be a fun Oscar race retrospective talking about Best Supporting Actor 2015, Sylvester Stallone versus Mark Rylance. That was a really exciting category that year. There was a lot of unpredictability all throughout the season, and I am here to break it all down. Why did Sylvester Stallone, reprising his character of Rocky Balboa in Creed from director Ryan Coogler, ultimately lose the Oscar to Mark Rylance for Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies? Before I give you all of my reasons why Rylance won, let's begin by talking about the 5 nominees. Tom Hardy, The Revenant.
That's when I felt it. I felt all of it. I got my head turned inside out.
So as of this recording, this is still Tom Hardy's only Oscar nomination, and it did come as kind of a surprise. Like before the Oscar nomination, he had only gotten in at Critics' Choice in Best Supporting Actor for The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio was the face of that movie, like in the trailers, on the poster, and he was about to win his overdue Oscar in Best Actor. Like he was the big awards play in a sense for that movie, even though Alejandro G. Iñárritu won Best Director and the film got a new picture and things. When it came to the acting categories, that was the Leonardo DiCaprio show. So Tom Hardy getting into Best Supporting Actor was a bit of a surprise, I'd say. I was rooting for Jacob Tremblay to get into Best Supporting Actor for Room. I think that would have been so well deserved. He did get a SAG nomination for Supporting Actor, but it is very difficult for kids to get into the Oscars in acting. It just doesn't happen very much anymore. So it didn't surprise me when Hardy was chosen instead. He had no shot in hell of winning the Oscar that night. He was just happy to be there for his terrific performance as the villainous John Fitzgerald in The Revenant, which tells the story of a frontiersman played by DiCaprio in the 1820s who fights for his survival. The Revenant was one of the big runaway box office successes at the end of 2015. We knew very early on this was going to do well at the Oscars, and if anyone thought DiCaprio wasn't winning Best Actor, all you had to do was turn to Best Supporting Actor, where Tom Hardy got in. It showed clear support from Academy members for that movie. So yeah, even though Hardy wasn't winning, DiCaprio had Best Actor in the bag. Christian Bale, The Big Short.
When the bonds fail, I want to be certain of payment in case of solvency issues with your bank.
So ever since Christian Bale won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars in early 2011 for The Fighter, he's done pretty well at the show. That decade, he got 4 nominations total. He's also nominated in Best Actor for American Hustle, he's nominated in Best Actor for Vice, and he also got this nomination in Supporting Actor for The Big Shorts, which is just a stunning ensemble of actors. You have Brad Pitt and Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling. The film telling of that period of around 2006 to 2007, where a group of investors bet against the United States mortgage market. Bale plays Michael Burry, one of the first people to discover the American housing market bubble. Director Adam McKay, who was known for comedies, right? Films like Anchorman and Step Brothers, he decided to move in a new direction for The Big Short in 2015. A film that has a lot of humor in it, but it's also very much a drama, and you knew early on from that cast, this was going to be something not at all like Anchorman, right? This was going to be something new and different and fresh, and the way the screenplay attacks that real-life story and just has so much variety in its tones and the performances, and there's a lot going on in The Big Short that was a thrill to watch opening weekend. And one of the great performances in the movie is Christian Bale, once again disappearing into a character, trying something new, and succeeding in every way. Now, did Christian Bale ever have a chance at winning the Oscar for The Big Short? No. That was never going to happen. I mean, he was kind of the face that award season of the entire cast, when it came to individual nominations, which makes sense because he does give a very strong performance, and the Academy had proven that decade that they really loved him, so the Bale nomination made sense. But because he had won in Best Supporting Actor a few years before for The Fighter, as I said, there wasn't any need to give him a second one. The Big Short was respected enough that year to get Bale in. Like, it got into Best Picture, it won Best Adapted Screenplay, right? So it did pretty well. And with an astonishing ensemble cast like that, it would have been weird if nobody would have been nominated in acting at the Oscars. So Bale got in, that made sense, but like Hardy, he was just happy to be there. Mark Ruffalo, Spotlight.
We'll take it to Ben when I say it's time. It's time, Robbie! It's time! They knew, and they let it happen! 2 kids!
As I explored in great detail in Mark Ruffalo and the Elusive Oscar, I think the closest he's come to winning is probably Spotlight, because that movie won Best Picture, it won Original Screenplay, Ruffalo was on his 3rd Oscar nomination in just a few short years, he had just been nominated for The Kids Are All Right, and Foxcatcher. This was his 3rd nomination without a win, and especially because Spotlight wins Best Picture, you'd think, well, why couldn't Ruffalo be more competitive? What it came down to ultimately was that in the early stage of that award season, Ruffalo was not getting nominated. Even though Spotlight won SAG Ensemble, like it won Best Cast in a Motion Picture at SAG for Ruffalo and McAdams and that amazing group of actors, Ruffalo was not nominated in Best Supporting Actor at SAG. He also wasn't nominated at the Golden Globes. So like, even though at the late stage of the game, he's in at BAFTA and he gets the Oscar nomination, I think him not showing up along the way at 2 crucial places did hurt Ruffalo in the long run, even though he is terrific in that film and has that one, like, really famous moment where he breaks down in front of Michael Keaton. In Spotlight, Ruffalo plays Mike Resendez. He is a journalist, a part of the Boston Globe, as the reporters uncover a massive scandal of child molestation and cover-up within the local Catholic archdiocese. Of course, Spotlight was one of the big critical hits of 2015. It was always going to be an Oscars movie ever since it premiered at the festivals in the fall. Like, I knew before it opened theatrically, just based on what I'd read about the film, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be a movie Academy members eat up, man. They are going to love it. Going into the ceremony, we weren't sure if it was going to win Best Picture. Like, there was talk of The Revenant, there was talk of Mad Max Fury Road, man, which would have been incredible. But yeah, kind of the safer choice, like the mid-level movie we knew Academy members were going to love. Spotlight did take Best Picture, and so you could argue maybe Ruffalo had a chance, but no. To date, Mark Ruffalo, of course, has 4 Oscar nominations. He also got in for Poor Things a couple years ago, and he is still in search of his elusive Oscar. Sylvester Stallone, Creed.
As far as options for treatment, this is the best plan of action.
No, I understand, but my wife tried that, and I don't think I want to do it. Didn't turn out so good, but it's okay.
Now, Sylvester Stallone is an interesting figure when it comes to the Oscars. He's not an actor many people would peg as being like overdue to win an Academy Award for acting, right? Even though when we go to the beginning of his career with Rocky 1976, he gets 2 Oscar nominations, 1 in Best Actor, 1 in Screenplay. He doesn't win either. And then he goes on to become like one of the big movie stars of the 80s and part of the 90s, I would say. At least like one of the big action stars in the world for a while, you know? He's not doing very good acting work, like whether he's doing action or comedy or things. It takes 1997's Copland for him to do something a little bit different, something more dramatic, but that movie came and went. It was like an August release, and it just wasn't good enough of a movie, sadly, and so then he's popping up in a lot of duds, and, you know, he's in, like, Driven, and Get Carter, and Spy Kids 3D. Like, Stallone is not on top of the world in the 2000s and early 2010s. He does well with his Expendables movies, but like, nobody is looking at Stallone like maybe he'll win an Oscar. Like, maybe he'll get an Oscar for acting. That wasn't on any of our minds until Creed opened in theaters in the fall of 2015. This was a critical and box office hit that marked the triumphant return of Stallone as Rocky Balboa in a supporting role this time as a trainer and mentor to the son of his former rival Apollo Creed. Rocky's wife has passed away. He's dealing with cancer in that movie, and we do see a new side to Stallone as an actor. Even though he went on to appear in Creed 2, it just felt like this might be his goodbye to the character after having played him for 40 years up to that point. He has amazing chemistry with Michael B. Jordan. The director, Ryan Coogler, really gets an amazing performance out of Stallone in that film. And it seemed like once award season got started, that Stallone, if he could win Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes, he was going to have a narrative, man. Not just a narrative of a career that had its ups and downs, but like being a big movie star and things, also going all the way back to the 70s, and Rocky winning Best Picture and Best Director at the Oscars, but not for Stallone. He had still never won for that character, that franchise. So there was a narrative to Stallone that season, especially when he did win the Golden Globe and got a standing ovation. An amazing moment at the Globes, I would say. That entire room erupts for him. He is clearly overcome with emotion. He gives a wonderful speech.
I'm gonna try not to get emotional, because I am the sum total of everyone I've ever met, and so lucky I absorbed some of it.
And then Stallone wins Best Supporting Actor again at Critics' Choice a few days later, and suddenly Stallone is the frontrunner in Best Supporting Actor. He could win the Oscar, right? We were all thinking it in January of 2016. Like, this could be his moment. He absolutely has the narrative, and he has the performance. It's probably his best acting, even more so than like the first Rocky film. He's really, really great in Creed, and so it just felt like that was going to happen. Outside of a surprise, a huge shocker, it was kind of like, well, who can take Stallone down? Not Hardy, not Bale, probably not Ruffalo. So who could do it? There was just one other person, right? Mark Rylance, Bridge of Spies.
Every time they hit him, he stood back up again.
Okay, so here was Sylvester Stallone's quiet threat all throughout award season. Mark Rylance slowly creeping toward the top. He wasn't winning much throughout the season outside of some critics' prizes, but he was getting in everywhere. And Bridge of Spies by director Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks, that was a beloved critical hit. It did well at the box office. It's got everything Academy members really adore. You know, it's a period drama. You have the combination of Spielberg and Hanks and things. Like, even though Bridge of Spies isn't amazing, like one of Spielberg's best, it was going to get in at the Oscars, at least in a few categories. It did get into Best Picture, and it got into Best Supporting Actor for Mark Rylance for his terrific performance as Rudolph Abel, a convicted spy during the Cold War who Tom Hanks' character defends in court. Rylance is very good in this film, and it's not a showy performance. This is never a performance that is screaming, "Give me an Oscar." It's subtle, powerful work, and he has some monologues that really hit you in the guts. You really come to empathize with him, and by the end, like, the performance you take with you is not Tom Hanks. Even though he is solid in Bridge of Spies, it's the Mark Rylance performance you're thinking about in the days to come. And even though in 2015, 2016, Mark Rylance wasn't a big name in the world of film, he had been doing really great work on the stage, in some television projects, And he was a respected actor, someone who had been lauded with lots of awards going back years and years, someone who Steven Spielberg had always wanted to work with. And it just seemed like if the movie was getting into picture, it was going to do semi-well throughout that award season. Rylance in supporting actor made sense. And so even though he didn't win at the Globes and at Critics' Choice or at SAG, he did win at BAFTA. He got that win. He didn't show to the ceremony. I think he was working at the time, and so Steven Spielberg accepts the trophy on his behalf. But on Oscars night, even though Stallone did not get in at SAG or BAFTA, it just felt like with those 2 early wins in the season, with his narrative, with his strong performance in Creed, and without anyone in the category who had like a ton of passion, it just seemed like Stallone was going to win the Academy Award, and it was going to be a moment. I still think to this day that crowd would have jumped to their feet, and it would have been absolutely incredible. It might have been one of the most memorable Oscar moments of the 2010s if Stallone had taken it, and on my ballot that night, I had checked off Stallone's name. I thought like there was an outside chance Rylance or Ruffalo could win, but there just didn't seem to be enough evidence for that to happen. I was like, it's gonna be Stallone. Like that night at the Globes, his win at the Globes was something else, man. That was such an extraordinary moment this award season. I just get the sense that everybody loves him. They want to give him this moment at the Oscars for playing Rocky Balboa for potentially the final time. And so Patricia Arquette comes out on stage, and then she opened the envelope and said this.
Mark Rylance, Bridge of Spies.
That was a shocker. That was a shocker to me. Even though Rylance had won BAFTA, I was like, what? Are you serious? Okay, wow. And it's just like polite clapping in the room. No one's overly enthusiastic outside of Spielberg, who gives him a hug. But like, there's just like this muted reaction to Rylance's win. He gives a lovely, pretty brief speech. And then it's over, and it's like, huh, okay. Rylance did pull it off after all. How did he do it? How did Mark Rylance beat Sylvester Stallone at the Oscars for Best Supporting Actor? I have 10 reasons why Rylance won over Stallone. Let's start with reason number 1, Rylance winning that key prize at BAFTA. So as I talk about all the time, to win the Oscar, you have to win something before, almost 100%. If Rylance had not won at BAFTA, and he had gone into the Oscars with like a couple critics prizes, but no big televised award, I don't think he could have pulled it off. But as like we found out just this year, right? With Mikey Madison winning at BAFTA, sometimes just BAFTA is enough. You can lose at Golden Globes and Critics' Choice and SAG. If you can win at BAFTA, and there is like enough uncertainty in the category, you can go on and win the Oscar. I do think that BAFTA victory for Rylance in supporting actor was key. Even though he wasn't there, even though he didn't give a speech, that victory showed there was some support for him. And so it's like, if he could win at BAFTA, why couldn't he win at the Oscars? Now, a BAFTA victory is not a guaranteed Oscar win, of course, as I'll talk about in my next Oscar race retrospective about Best Supporting Actress that year. You know I'm going to talk about Kate Winslet versus Alicia Vikander, which was a different scenario in a sense. Like, either one could have taken it. Winslet did win at BAFTA, same night as Rylance. And so you could say, well, Brian, Kate Winslet won Supporting Actress for Steve Jobs at BAFTA. Why didn't she win the Oscar? It's a totally different situation I will dive into in the days to come. I do think when it came to Supporting Actor and Rylance, that BAFTA victory was key. Number 2, Bridge of Spies got an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. Here's another important reason, Bridge of Spies getting into picture, which means more Academy members are going to be watching Bridge of Spies. Creed is not in picture. Creed's only Oscar nomination was supporting actor for Stallone. It did not receive anything else. Not in like editing, not in screenplay or something. Like, nobody thought Creed was going to get into like picture director. That seemed unlikely. But it could have shown some support from Academy members by getting like a screenplay nom or something. Like recognition in at least one other category, I do think would have helped Stallone at the end of the day. But Creed only getting into supporting actor and nowhere else, whereas Bridge of Spies got into picture, it got into score, it got into production design and sound mixing, it got into screenplay. So Bridge of Spies, even though it wasn't like overly competitive to win a bunch of things, even though Spielberg was overlooked in director, it was a much better liked film from Academy members than Creed was. So I do think this was another very important reason why we should have had Rylance a little bit more in our sights, because Bridge of Spies got into picture and Creed only got the one nomination for Stallone. Number 3, Stallone missing nominations in supporting actor at both SAG and BAFTA. So I wouldn't say this was the kiss of death to Stallone's Oscar chances, because he had won at the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice. So, like, you could say, well, he won there. It still seemed like, even though he missed at SAG and BAFTA, he could probably win the Oscar. But let's be honest, those two misses, just for the nominations at SAG and BAFTA, those did hurt Stallone's chances. He didn't have to win at SAG and BAFTA, but he needed to get in. He at least needed like the SAG nomination to show that there was support from actors in the industry. Him not being recognized at all at SAG showed there was going to be vulnerability to Stallone at the Oscars. Like, if actors aren't voting for him, like even for nominations, like how is he going to win? I do think those misses hurt Stallone big time. Reason number 4 Mark Rylance won the Oscar was Idris Elba taking Best Supporting Actor at SAG. So I have to mention the Idris Elba of it all, right? He gives a phenomenal performance in Beasts of No Nation, which was one of the first big films that went straight to streaming on Netflix, right? Elba is amazing in it. I thought he was worthy of a Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination. But I don't know, like Academy members, like when it came to Netflix premieres and stuff, they were just not taking that seriously in 2015, 2016, the way they would with Roma and other films like 2018 and beyond. They just weren't there yet, sadly, and so I do think it was the Netflix of it all that prevented Idris Elba in getting an Oscar nomination. It would have been well deserved, and I love that he won at SAG. It was such a great moment. I love his speech. But I do think this didn't hurt Mark Rylance the way, like, let's say Mark Ruffalo had been nominated for Spotlight and Ruffalo had won at SAG, and then he's in the category at the Oscars, and then there's a chance maybe Ruffalo can win there. I mean, obviously, if Rylance had won at SAG, I think this might have been sewn up. If Rylance had won at both SAG and BAFTA, even if he hadn't shown at either ceremony, I still would have predicted Rylance to win the Oscar over Stallone. But because Rylance lost at SAG, even to someone like Elba, who's not nominated at the Oscars, I thought, well, like, Rylance kind of needed SAG. In early 2016, I wondered if only the BAFTA victory was enough. It turned out to be enough, and that SAG victory for Elba didn't really hurt Rylance in the long run. This takes me to reason number 5. Rylance was the classy prestige pick in the category. So that was the thing Stallone was lacking, the classy prestige of it all, whereas Mark Rylance was absolutely classy in every way. A very well-respected actor on stage, on screen, and TV, and everywhere. He was an actor that people really liked. So when it comes to the Academy Awards, like the winner there for Best Supporting Actor, Mark Rylance, in terms of like the prestige element of it all, made more sense than Stallone. Reason number 6 is that Rylance was the only person in Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars who got in everywhere. He was the only one. So that showed support from a variety of voting bodies. Everybody thought to nominate him. So I do think that helped Rylance as well. That no matter what kind of voting body it was, no matter the show, even if he didn't win, He was showing up everywhere. That showed that everybody respected his performance and that, yeah, he could win at the end of the day. Reason number 7 is that Stallone was really his only competition. Again, you could argue Ruffalo because his movie won Best Picture and he was on his 3rd nomination, but I do think him missing nominations at Golden Globes and SAG hurt him enough to where he just couldn't be competitive. And then you had Christian Bale and Tom Hardy, who were just happy to be there. So really, like, the only other person who could have won this, I do think, was Stallone. If there was enough passion for his performance and his narrative, like, maybe. But because there wasn't also a very, very strong, like, 3rd contender in the category, there could have been a situation where, like, Rylance could have split votes with, like, a 3rd strong contender, which, like, just barely pushed Stallone to the surface, like barely got him to a win. But because this category at the end of the day really did just come down to Rylance and Stallone, I do think this is another reason why Rylance pulled it off. Reason number 8 is that Rylance was a very well-respected stage actor. And you go back like decades to like the 50s and things, you see acting wins for actors who are more known for their stage work than necessarily their film work, but they can win the Oscar if it's an actor who just all around the world has a lot of respect. Even if it's not all on the screen, if it's also on stage and things. Like by 2015, Mark Rylance had won 3 Tony Awards. He'd won 3. That's probably why Spielberg wanted to work with him so much. Rylance had been so great on the stage that it made sense he could like transition into movie roles and do amazing work there too and get an Academy Award. Reason number 9, let's face it, Academy members did not want to give Sylvester Stallone an acting Oscar. I do think there was enough holding Academy members back to say, do we really want to give Sylvester Stallone, star of so many terrible movies going back decades? It's not like most of his output, even in the genre films and things like action movies, was really strong, and then just, occasionally he had a misstep. Like, there would be years of him appearing in nothing but total garbage. Like, he is a Razzie Award favorite. So many wins and nominations throughout the decades. And I just think when it came to the Oscars, like the Oscar voters were like, do we give this prize to Stallone? He's good in Creed. We don't love the movie. It's not in any other category. How about we just give Stallone the nomination? That's the win for him. Like, getting the Oscar nomination, that's not nothing, but the win goes to the classier actor, like the more subtle performance in Bridge of Spies, which is in Best Picture and is a more beloved movie this year. I do think just enough Academy voters not wanting to vote for Stallone because of his body of work. So many terrible, terrible movies going back decades. I think that hurt him too. And finally, reason number 10 is, of course, Mark Rylance gives an excellent, subtle performance in Bridge of Spies. As I talked about much earlier in this video, it's not a showy performance at all. It's not something where he's like, overly emoting and, shouting to the rooftops and crying. And it's a soft, haunting kind of film performance that really sticks with you. Anyone who watches Bridge of Spies, whether you love it or like it or think it's, it's okay or whatever, the Mark Rylance performance is probably the best thing about that movie. I've still only seen it the one time in theaters, now about a decade ago, and when I think back on Bridge of Spies, it's Mark Rylance I think of first. He is so great in that movie from beginning to end, and so now about 10 years on, thinking about that Best Supporting Actor race at the Oscars, even though on the night it was a shocker to see Rylance win that prize over Stallone, now, especially having talked through these 10 reasons, it makes a lot more sense. We shouldn't have been as surprised as we were. Mark Rylance, in a way, was always going to win this. Mark Rylance has continued doing very good work in film and TV since his Oscar victory for Bridge of Spies. I especially like his performance in Dunkirk and Bones and All. Bones and All, 2022. I wanted him to get his second Oscar nomination for that film from Luca Guadagnino. He is so sinister and devilish and amazing in Bones and All. I do think that would have been a really cool second Oscar nom. To date, his only time at the Oscars was for Bridge of Spies, and you know what? That's okay. Like, if he's ever going to get nominated, win for a performance in the movies, Mark Rylance getting Best Supporting Actor for Bridge of Spies is an excellent choice. I do think, especially now that many years have passed, we can look back on that night and say, this was a fantastic Oscar victory for Best Supporting Actor, Mark Rylance. Well done, sir.
I don't know how they separated the five of us from all the other supporting actors who are making films at the moment. It's a wonderful time to be an actor, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Mark Rylance's Oscar win for Bridge of Spies? Is there any reason why he won that I left out? I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.